TRF 管理副委員長、水野 RI 理事、三木 TRF 管理委員、どうぞステージにお進みください。
皆さんこんにちは。大変お疲れ様でございました。昨日の本会議の終了時に皆様方からのご意見等々につきましてアンケートをいただきました。すべてについて触れることはできませんけれども、いくつかをご紹介し、それに関してＲＩ会長並びにマローニー財団管理委員長、そしてラリー・ランス財団管理委員会副委員長にお答えをいただきたいというふうに思います。また三木さんがここにいらっしゃいますので、管理員としてご意見をいただけるというふうに思いますので、どうぞよろしくお願いをいたします。それではまず最初に平和構築について質問がいくつか出ておりますので、ご紹介を申し上げ、ご意見を承りたいというふうに思います。これは2790地区成田ロータリークラブの諸岡様からいただきました。ちょっと全文を読み上げさせていただきます。現下の国際情勢は100年前の第一次世界大戦終結直後と酷似してきました。平和と人類の未来の安心と安全、そして国際協調の必要性が高まっています。ポリオ根絶に加えて、世界の恒久平和のための平和ヘローの育成支援もロータリーの使命の中で重要性を高めていると考えます。国際ロータリーのポリオ対策が最大目標は無論大切なテーマですが、平和への願いと人類の未来のための願いを行動計画を考える上でどのように調和させていくのでしょうか。お示しください。クラブや地区の会に分かりやすく説明するためにご指導くださいということでご意見をいただいております。まずはステファニー・アーチック会長からお願いします。
Rotary is an organization built on world understanding and peace. Each time we do something in our avenues of service, all 7 of them, including disease prevention and treatment, which is polio eradication, we create the environments necessary for peaceful societies to exist. So every time we work in any of our areas of focus, we are building peace. And every time we build peace in one of our areas of focus, every time we work in an area of focus, we're also building peace. So it goes back and forth because that's the foundation of Rotary. Every area of focus leads to peace, and peace leads to every area of focus. So that's my perspective about how important it is for us to remember that peace building needs to be at the forefront of everything that we think about and everything that we say and everything that we do in terms of our work in Rotary.
ステファニー会長ありがとうございました。続いてマローニーロータリー財団管理長にも同じ質問にご意見があればお聞かせいただきたいと思います。
Well, of course, I agree with President Stephanie. And we are definitely focused on peace in the Rotary Foundation. Just in the last 10 days, I've been in correspondence with our International Polio Plus Committee Chair, with President Stephanie, the other leadership of Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation, discussing how the conflict situation, particularly in Pakistan at this point, is impacting our polio eradication efforts. And we are very much focused on doing what we can to create a more peaceful environment so that we can be successful in our polio eradication efforts.
ありがとうございました。それでは続いてラリーさんお願いできますか。
Konnichiwa. Two things come to mind for me, in addition to what President Stephanie and TRF Chair Mark have said. The first of those two is a quick reminder about how strongly the trustees feel and how positive we feel about our Rotary Peace Centers program. And the fact that we are in the midst of achieving a growth plan for that Rotary Peace Centers program that many, I hope, are familiar with, particularly to enhance the 5 partnerships we have with our master's degree programs, including, of course, the great partnership we have here in this country with International Christian University. And we're supplementing that and adding to that with up to 4 new one-year professional certificate programs. Of course, 1 in Uganda, 1 very quickly to be started in the Middle East and North Africa in Istanbul, 1 very shortly after in Asia. And then that growth plan, friends, is a 4th one-year professional certificate program, hopefully in Latin America by 2030. So please understand that peace is very important to Rotary and the Rotary Foundation in the manner in which we're trying to grow our Peace Centers program. And we're very pleased with that success. Secondly, the question at some level, Director Mizuno, references priorities, and polio being our top organizational priority, and maybe what will come next after we are successful eradicating polio, and an indication that peace is a strong consideration from the person that posed the question. And this is where our programs of scale effort really comes into play, I think. And I hope that each of you will watch with great pride the growth that we're having in our programs of scale efforts to try to see what other types of programs could possibly one day evolve into another corporate program. Thank you.
ラリーさんどうもありがとうございました。それではミキさん一言お願いします。
世界の恒久平和というのはもう本当にロータリーの究極の目標、目的でありますので、これは追求し続けていかなければいけないと私は思っています。で、ポリを根絶するっていうのも、これももうあとわずかになってきた大きな命題でありますので、これもやはり最後まで見届けなければいけない。で、今、おとといだったと思いますが、積極的平和、消極的平和という話が出ておりますけれども、ノルウェーのヨハン・ガルトゥング博士 平和学の父と言われる、今年の1月に亡くなったんですけれども、紛争予防とか戦争を解決する、それだけが平和ということではなくて、そうならないために私たちはロータリーとして一生懸命考えていかなければいけない。ガルトゥン博士は8つの項目を挙げられました。今ここで8つを挙げるわけではありませんけれども、一つずつをしっかりとロータリアンの胸の中に刻み込んで、平和っていうのは一体どういうものなのかということを基本的な部分から考えていかなければいけないのではないかなというふうに考えております。ありがとうございます。
ミシさん、どうもありがとうございました。それでは続いての質問に移らさせていただきたいと思いますが、ロータアクトのことについて複数の方からご意見をいただいております。まず横浜ロータアクトクラブの前田さんからこのような意見をいただいております。ロータアクトの地位向上について、皆様のご意見をお聞かせください。2019年ロータアクトクラブが RI の加盟クラブに含まれることとなりました。さまざまな環境の変化に対応できている地区、そうではない地区、さまざまでありますが、まだその言葉だけが先走っていて、具体的に何が求められていて、どう行動すれば良いのかが分かっていません。勉強不足で大変恐縮ですが、皆様のご意見をお聞かせください。エレベートローターアクトをどのように捉えて行動すればいいでしょうかということが一つ。もう一つは2650地区トネパスタガバナーから、この7月1日に皆さんもご存知のようにローターアクトの数が相当減りました。この結果を踏まえて今後どのように対応するつもりでしょうかというご質問をいただいております。それではステファニー会長、お願いいたします。
How much time do I have? Elevating Rotaract was one of the smartest things Rotary has ever done. The problem, however, is we elevated Rotaract before we knew how we were going to elevate Rotaract. So now we are stepping backwards to create the right kinds of policies and processes that will move us forward with having Rotaractors as full members of our organization. They are our future. Having said that, several years have gone by when there has been no solid action. There's been some, but not solid action. So this particular year, the Vice President of Rotary International, Hans-Hermann Kasten from Germany, has been charged by me to look for specific ways that we can create policies and ideas and suggestions for Rotary clubs and districts to help make it easier for Rotaractors to transition into Rotary. The second question, why do we have less Rotaractors than we did previously? Why do we have less Rotarians than we had previously? I think if I knew the answer to that, I would be a rich woman. But it basically means that Rotaractors, like Rotarians who leave, are not finding the value in the experience. So for me, that comes down to looking at the culture of both our Rotary clubs and our Rotaract clubs to make sure that we are answering what people expect when they come into a club. People join Rotary and join Rotaract for different reasons. Paul Harris wanted fellowship when he started the organization, not service. That came later. Some people want service. They want to come in and roll up their sleeves and get busy and change the world and change the community. Some people look and say, this is a fascinating group of people. They're all business professionals. I could probably learn things here. Professional development, absolutely correct. Others, same thing. They look and see business people and they comment, well, I have a business. They have a business. I could network here. Of course you can. Rotary is the original business networking group. So we have to pay attention to why people are coming into our clubs. When we do that, we have a better opportunity, a better chance to select the kinds of projects, the kinds of speakers, the kinds of socials that from time to time will make sense to those people and will answer the value of why they're coming. Rotary is no different than our businesses. We have a product, and our product is our club experience. Our Rotaract clubs, same thing. They have a product. It's the club experience. So when we have losses in our membership from both Rotary and Rotaract, that's suggesting to me that we are not paying attention enough to our product.
ありがとうございました。続いてマローニーさんにお聞きしたいと思いますが、ご存知のようにマローニーさん2019年にロータアクトの地位が変わったときにエレベーターロータアクトのタスクフォースの歯科委員会の委員長をされてたと思います。マローニーさんよろしくお願いいたします。
There are many different questions that were raised in your two questions, Director Mizuno. First off, I have to agree with President Stephanie from the historical context. We elevated Rotaract before we had a plan for making that happen. And I was a part of that. I admit that. But many things in the history of Rotary have happened because the time was right, or the political situation, the Rotary political situation made it possible to happen. And in 2019, there was a International Rotaract Committee that was very keen on improving the relationship, the position of Rotaract within the constellation of Rotary. And in 2019, this was the 2018-2019 year, I was president-elect of Rotary International, but Barry Rassin, a very strong proponent of Rotaract, was the president of Rotary International. And the feeling was that the stars were aligned in a way that we could make these changes, that these changes could be accomplished through the 2019 Council on Legislation, that everything was coming together in the right way. And these changes, because it involved both changing the RI Constitution and the RI bylaws, required a 2/3 vote. And many of you probably don't realize that when this item first came to the Council on Legislation, it received more than 60% positive vote, but not 2/3. So it failed. But some of those who voted against it saw how popular it was and said, well, if it's this popular, I need to be changing my position. And those prior opponents became proponents, and we went through the parliamentary procedure to reconsider the item. And upon reconsideration passed, and the item was reconsidered, and of course had well above the 2/3 vote. Yes, We needed a better plan. We had no plan. This was all done within 3 months' time. But it's now put us in a much better situation. With respect to the number of Rotaractors, on a global basis, I am not sure that we have a declining number of Rotaractors. We published a number, an estimated number of Rotaractors for years. But it was just an estimated number. We didn't have the data. We didn't have dues records to know precisely how many Rotaractors there were. And we got a little surprise when we started collecting dues. Sure, some Rotary Club reports that they have 50 members. Well, they had 50 members, but they hadn't seen several of those people in years. Then when it came time to pay dues, very modest dues of, I think it's $5 and $8, they started checking around. Oh, well, those people aren't even involved anymore. And so the numbers reported were lower than the numbers that Rotary International had been estimating. I am not at all confident that we have a decreased number of Rotaractors. We just have a lower number than we thought we had. But I suspect in terms of service and activity, we still have essentially the same level of Rotaractors globally. Now, you know, some clubs have gone up, some clubs have gone down, districts have gone up, districts have gone down. Now, part of the question that I haven't even gotten to was, what should districts do to implement Elevate Rotaract? Well, I think you are going to see, as a part of the Vice President's activities and the board's response to recommendations from the Vice President and his team, that there will be specific recommendations. But the recommendation that I, Mark Maloney, a past president of Rotary International, with no authority in this area, would make, would be involve Rotaractors in your district structure. Include a Rotaractor or 2 Rotaractors on many of your district committees. Maybe not all of them, maybe all of them, depending upon how many Rotaractors you have. But involve them in the district administration in terms of having a voice on committees. Back in 2019, at the suggestion of this gentleman right here, we brought Rotaractors to the International Assembly for the first time. Rotaractors came again the next year under President-elect Holger Kanak. Then with COVID, it fell off. But again, in February, President-elect Mario Cesar de Camargo is bringing 34 Rotaractors, 1 from each zone, to the International Assembly. And you may say, why should Rotaractors be at the International Assembly? This is for the purpose of governors-elect becoming familiar with their duties, sharing ideas with other governors-elect, and preparing themselves for 12 months of very intense service. Well, I believe that having the Rotaractors there, particularly in the group discussion rooms provides a perspective. Look at the governors-elect that are going to Orlando. Most of them are, shall we say, of a certain age and older. Having the Rotaractors there to share their ideas gives those governors-elect a perspective that they would not otherwise have. They're not telling the governors-elect what to do, but they're sharing thoughts and providing the perspective of a different generation. And I believe that is very important. And of course, the Rotary Foundation is trying to involve Rotaractors more and more by permitting Rotaract clubs to apply for grants in our system and bringing the end, and we're asking for those donations from Rotaractors as well. And there may not be a lot of major gifts, but in my own district, where we had $1 million dinner, for the very first time, it's my understanding, at least in North America, Rotaractors were targets of solicitation, just as Rotarians were. And we did receive major donor $10,000 commitments from Rotaractors. It may be a part of their estate plan later, at the time of their deaths, but that, if we're going to bring them in, if they want to have grants, let them participate in supporting those grants as well. Sorry for the long answer, but there were many, many, many questions there.
マローニーさん、本当に具体的に率直にお答えいただきましてありがとうございました。ラリーさん、一言ショートメッセージをお願いできますか。
In the interest of time, I'll just make a couple of observations. The first is that while it may be the case, which leads to the question, that we, as Rotary, acted quickly to elevate Rotaract and needed to build a plan behind that, as has been mentioned. But let's all remember that I think that there was a strong business case for considering elevating Rotaract, and a part of that business case was that statistic that about 5% of Rotaractors become Rotarians. And I just want to remind us of that statistic as part of the business case, as you, as leaders in Japan, consider what does Elevate Rotaract mean to you. One of the elements to measure is that business case. And the effort of elevating Rotaract was meant in part to build a momentum to a more positive connection of Rotaractors eventually becoming members of Rotary clubs. And secondly, very quickly, I would say that it seems to me that elevating Rotaract or encouraging Rotaract also allows Rotaract clubs, and we're grateful for those Rotaractors who are in attendance at this institute. It allows and encourages Rotaractors to even consider making their Rotaract club a new Rotary club. And while that may sound odd or different or not as clear, I think part of the effort was to allow them the opportunity to see themselves in their time as Rotarians. Thank you.
ラリーさん、どうもありがとうございました。お時間の関係があって、ミキさんは日本にいらっしゃいますので、国内でご質問いただきたいというふうに思います。それではこれは多くの方にとって非常に関心のあることではないかなと思うんですけれども、本田さんから2840 地区のバストカバーなんかいただきました。2ついただいたんですが、時間の関係で皆さんに関係が深い方をご紹介申し上げます。近年 RI は新しいタイプのクラブ結成に注力していますが、大体の伝統的なクラブ、日本の場合多分 95% 以上が伝統的なクラブだと思いますが、この伝統的なクラブを再活性化するために何が一番重要だとお考えでしょうか。一言ずつお願いしたいということでございました。ステファニー会長お願いします。
Well, I have addressed this in several ways since we've been together. Traditional clubs are never going to go away. That's what brought us to the table. Our traditional clubs are strong. But we have to remember that every traditional club is not right for people in today's society. We talk about those Rotaractors, we talk about young professionals. They may not want to experience Rotary in the way you and I do. I'm in a traditional club. I love my club. I won't leave it. But there are people who want a different kind of experience. They don't want the traditional model. They would prefer an e-club because they're moving from place to place, or a passport club because they travel, or a satellite club because it would meet at a more convenient time, or a cause-based club because they would be with individuals who share a passion for a cause, or an interest-based club, people who enjoy the same interest forming together. So our Council on Legislation in 2016 allowed Rotary to create new models, to allow us to have opportunities for people to come in differently. For those clubs who remain traditional, we need to remember that every one of our clubs have built-in attrition. Unless we are intentional about bringing in new people, recently retired people, people who have come back into the workforce, or others who are attracted to what we do in a traditional club. Unless we do that intentionally, our clubs will eventually wither away. If you have a traditional club of 20 members, and you don't act and you're not intentional about replacing or bringing new people in the first year, 2 people will pass away. 1 person will get a new job in another community. And suddenly, your club of 20 is now 17. And the next year, if you are not intentional, another person will pass away. Someone's spouse will become ill and can no longer come to meetings. And now your club is at 15. So we must be intentional about bringing people into our traditional clubs because we do have built-in attrition. And the other issue about our traditional clubs is that from time to time, we must examine the culture of our club. You heard me talk at length yesterday about the action plan. That's exactly what the action plan helps us to do. It helps us to look at our clubs and decide, are there little changes that we could make, that we should make, that will make our club stronger? So in general, our traditional clubs are on a good path. They understand Rotary, but we have to keep in mind, being mindful that there are people who want things to keep up with the world. For instance, technology. 10 years ago, there were Rotary clubs that never heard of Zoom, never heard of Teams. But because of the pandemic, we were all forced to take a look at how could technology keep us connected. So that was really a lesson for all of us, that we do know how to innovate. We do know how to bring in new ideas in our clubs. So in general, traditional clubs are here to stay. New clubs are also on the agenda for our future. We need both in order to survive.
ステファニーさんありがとうございました。マークさんお願いします。
The question said that 95% of the clubs in Japan are traditional clubs. And I guarantee you that all over the world, the vast majority of clubs are traditional clubs. Some of you may have seen this before. This is not origami. This is the community in which your Rotary Club, in which a Rotary Club exists. In this community, the Rotary Club meets, a traditional club meets at noon on Mondays. These are all the people that are in the community that are eligible to be in the Rotary Club. But then there's these people who cannot meet at noon on whatever day I said, Monday. Now, the market, the eligible members, the eligible people for membership in this club is this reduced number. And the club's a traditional club, ring the bell, maybe they sing a song, they have the ritual, the formality, and there are just people in that community who are not interested in that. And so this represents all the people who are not interested in that. Now, only these people are eligible, are interested as being possible members in that club. And I could continue folding this for other criteria. But what Rotary Club in that community is serving these people who can't meet at that time? What Rotary Club is serving these people who are not interested in a traditional Rotary Club? We must diversify our product. Our product is the club meeting experience, and we must diversify that product so that we offer the traditional club for this group, but then we offer maybe a different traditional club at a different time for this group, or at least some of this group, and that we offer a non-traditional club for this group. So even though you have a very, very successful Rotary Club in that community, you need other clubs to serve other segments of the eligible population within that community. We need more Rotary Clubs where we already have Rotary Clubs. And the only places we are growing, thank you, Larry, the only places we are growing in the world today is where we are increasing the number of Rotary Clubs.
マロニーさんありがとうございました。時間の関係もあるので、次の課題に移りたいと思います。これもですね、皆さん方大変関心があって、私はステファニーさんと韓国の研究会、そして台湾の研究会に一緒に出席をさせていただきました。でその時にも出てきたんですが、今日は代表世話人の顔が、非定審議会代表世話人の顔があちら側にたくさんいらっしゃるので、どうしても聞いといた方がいいかなということで取り上げさせていただきます。全部は読みません。2650地区の利根さんからの質問で RI 分担金の増減についてどういうふうに考えるかということを、これは語り出すと長いんで、ステファニー会長、マロニー会長が簡潔にお話をいただければというふうに思います。これやってると一日中時間かかると思うので、簡単によろしくお願いしたいと思います。
I don't think it's a surprise to anyone when I say that inflation is happening all over the world. Everything we do or buy is costing more. We're paying more for food, we're paying more for fuel, we're paying more for clothing, we're paying more for everything. And that's happening around the world. The cost of running a business is getting higher and higher. Those of you who are in business will attest to that. Salaries are going up, materials are going up. Rotary is a business. It is costing more to do the business of Rotary. We are a dues-driven organization. You saw the presentation or heard the presentation about our forecast. And although financially we are strong because we are required to have a balanced budget, but that means we take from reserves to make that balance. Our membership has been going in the wrong direction for many decades, which means we have less and less dues coming into the organization, which is where we get almost 70% of our operational funds. People pay for what they value. I recently talked to some young people who went to the Taylor Swift concert in that city. And I couldn't believe what they paid for a ticket. But they value that experience. I talked to some other young professionals in my community, and every single morning they go to Starbucks and they buy coffee that costs 5 times more than the coffee that I make at home. People value certain things and they'll pay for it. I value my Rotary experience. I understand that we're living in a world where things are becoming more and more expensive. We have the option in our structure of dues to help individuals in terms of our district dues and our club dues. My club for many years included the cost of food in our dues. And 3 years ago, we realized that that was making our dues very, very expensive. So we eliminated the meal. So now when people come to the meeting, if they choose to order food, they pay for it individually. If they only want coffee, they pay for that. If they simply want water, that's all they have. So our dues were dramatically decreased because we recognize that we can change our club dues. Our district is holding the line on dues and making some adjustments so that that works better. And we recognize that Rotary International dues may have to be increased so that we can continue to maintain the level of service. If we don't increase our dues, just like in our business and industry, something will have to go. What would you like to see go in Rotary International? Would you like to see certain programs go away? What if we don't have youth exchange anymore? What if we don't have other significant programs? So there's just a very strong relationship between the state of our economies everywhere, worldwide, and the cost of doing business as a membership organization that does service.
会長、どうもありがとうございました。それではマノイさん、簡潔に一言お願いできますか。
The Rotary Foundation does not charge dues.
ありがとうございました。私はエバンストに行く機会が増えました。先ほど会長は価値があればお金を払うという話がありました。私はラーメンが好きです。 エヴァンストに行ってラーメンを食べて小瓶のビールを飛ぶと皆さん飲むといくらだか分かりますか？日本円で約4000円です。日本で1000円ですよね。1000円しないかな、1000円、まあ1000円ということは4倍ですよね。で、皆さんに考えていただきたいのは、日本のインタレストレートは 3D ケース振り返ってプラマイゼロですよ。アメリカの調べてみたら30年間調べるとインフレ率は 3% です。平均でですよ。ということは30年後には 2.5 倍から3倍近くなるということです。今会長がおっしゃった通りだというふうに思っております。で、会長は自ら言いにくいと思うので私は言いますけど、昔ＲI会長はどこ行くにもファーストクラスを使ってらっしゃいました。今は海外行くときはビジネスですけど、ステファニー会長は国内はエコノミーで今移動されています。で、私はオーディットコミュニティのメンバーでもありますけれども、オーディットコミュニティでは理事の質等々について非常に厳しく見てます。システムについても同じです。ということを日本の皆さんに COL の前にして私はお伝えしたかったということであります。で、実はお時間が本当に限られてしまってもっと聞きたいこともたくさんあるんですが、日本のなんて言いますかね、日本の老体と海外の老体との違いをどんなことを感じてますかということを聞かれているので、それを最後の質問にさせていただいて、ステファニー会長、マローニーさん、そしてラリーさん、一言ずつお願いしたいと思います。よろしくお願いします。
Basically, no, we all have the same DNA. We all want to make the world better. We all want to serve. So for me, no, I didn't see any difference.
マローニーさん、いかがでしょうか。
There is a level of formality in Japan in that we do not see generally in the United States. At our Zone Institute, the leadership would not process in to an event. We would just walk into the event one at a time and take our seats. And that's one, I mean, what Stephanie says is correct. The spirit wanting to do service, but in terms of the format, there is much greater formality in Japanese Rotary clubs and Rotary events.
ありがとうございました。せっかくですのでラリーさんお願いします。
Well, I'm smiling because, let's see, I'm 4 days old in Japan. This is my first opportunity to be in Japan. And so I have noticed that certainly everything runs on time. And we're all grateful for that. I have enjoyed that sense of formality. I have been overwhelmed by the respect for the other person that I see. And I'm really grateful to have had an experience to be able to come to Japan. Miki-san, as a trustee from Japan, and Chair Mark and I are in a class of 3 trustees who are finishing our 4th year as trustees of your Rotary Foundation. And I was very motivated to come to Japan because of Miki-san's gracious invitations and the thought that the 3 of us could experience the Institute in Japan together as part of being a class of trustees. So I have to simply say thank you for the incredible warmth and hospitality that you've given to me as a first-time Rotarian in Japan. and I encourage your efforts greatly. Thank you for being so kind.
3人の方々に大変、ミキサー入れて4人の方々に大変丁寧に受け答えをしていただきまして本当にありがとうございました。本来であれば一日中こういう議論をしていきたいところなんですけれども、もう時間が来ておりまして、ご協力いただきましたステファニー会長、マーク・マローニーロータリー財団管理委員長、そしてラリー・ランスフォードロータリー財団副委員長に対して、またミキさんに対して盛大な拍手をお願いしたいと思います。
素晴らしいフォーラムを開催いただきましたステファニー A アーチック ＲI 会長、マーク・ダニエル、マローニー TRF 管理委員長、ラリー A ランスフォード TRF 管理副委員長、水野勲 RI 理事、三木明 TRF 管理委員長、ありがとうございました。もう一度盛大な拍手をお願いいたします。